All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Once again, my name is Kara. I'm excited to have another video to offer you guys today. So today we're going to go over our sun salutations. Our sun salutations are building off of that half series video that I put out before. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe pause this, go back, find that half series video and watch that. We're building off of the half series to create our sun salutation, so it'd be great to be a little bit familiar with that half series. And so we want to also make sure that we're nice and warmed up, so that half series video would be great. Do a couple of those, make sure you're nice and warm before you come in here and attempt our sun salutations. Along with that, you'll want to make sure that you have your blocks or your textbooks if you're using those for blocks. Make sure that you have those nearby just in case you want to use those along with our sun salutations. All right, so let's get going. Alright, so hopefully we've had an opportunity to grab our blocks or our textbooks. If you'd like to turn on some of your own yoga music, I would highly recommend go to your Spotify, Pandora, kind of whatever music you'd like to listen to and get that going. I'm going to do this without music just so that you guys are able to hear me and hear my instructions loud and clear. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got two different variations that we'll go through just like we did with our half series. So a little bit more modified version and a little bit more advanced to kind of work up to. So let's go ahead, come to the top of our mats. We'll start off with that modified sun salutation. So just coming to the top of our mats, making sure that we're coming into our mountain pose. We can rock heel to toe, feel that ground underneath us, relaxing the shoulders down and away from the ears, turning our palms forward. And then when we're ready, inhaling, reaching our arms overhead, reaching our fingertips high, we'll exhale, hinge forward at our hips, slight bend in our knees as we reach down to either our block or the mat. From here, we'll bend in our knees, taking our hands to our mat, stepping back for a lunge here. We'll take our knee down to our mat, and then we'll raise our hands overhead. This is optional, so you can stay in your lunge with your hands on your mat if you'd like. Then we're taking those hands back to our mat. We'll step back into taking our knees to our mat and then allowing our hips to shift back into our child's pose. So this is where we kind of start that half series. From our child's pose, we're inhaling, rising forward, taking our shoulders above our hands. We can adjust our knees if we'd like. Bending in our elbows, coming to our crocodile. Inhaling, raising up into our cobra. And exhaling, pressing back to our child's pose. From our child's pose, we'll go ahead and step forward into our lunge once again, taking the option of hands overhead, feeling that stretch down our side here as we're in our lunge. Then we'll go ahead and step forward, both feet back to our forward fold. We can take our hands back to our block if we'd like. From here, inhaling, taking our arms overhead, and then exhaling through to our chair pose. Inhaling, coming back to our mountain pose. So we've just completed one full sun salutation there on one side. So we're going to go ahead and move through the opposite side. Inhaling and exhaling to our forward fold as we hinge forward at our hips, bending in our knees. We'll step back with the opposite leg this time to our kneeling lunge, raising our hands overhead. Coming back down to our lunge, pressing back to our child's pose. Inhaling, rising forward into our kneeling plank. Exhaling to our crocodile. Inhaling, rising up to our cobra. And exhaling, pressing back into our child's pose. We'll step forward with that same leg back into our lunge. Raising overhead, feeling that stretch down the opposite side here as we raise overhead. Stepping forward into our forward folds. From our forward fold, hinging, bending in our knees, raising overhead, and exhaling back through to our chair pose. Coming back to our mountain. So we've just completed one full sun salutation each side. So that is our modified version. All right, so we just went through that modified sun salutation, so now we're going to go ahead and go through a little bit more advanced version. So we'll go ahead, meet back at the top of our mat so we can still have our blocks available to us. Finding our mountain pose to start, relaxing the shoulders down and away from our ears. Inhaling, circle sweeping our hands overhead. Exhaling, hinging forward at our hips, back down to our forward fold. Taking a step back into our lunge. We'll take a full lunge here, keeping the knee off of our mat. We can raise overhead, again with our arms, reaching the fingertips up to the sky. Coming back down to our lunge, pressing back with the opposite foot to meet in our downward facing dog. So stepping back to our downward facing dog. If we'd like, we can kind of pedal our heels here for a second. From our downward facing dog, inhaling, rising to our full plank. Exhaling, bending in our elbows, using those triceps. Inhaling, taking our feet underneath us for our upward facing dog. Taking those toes back underneath, pressing back to our downward facing dog. Inhaling, taking that same leg forward into our lunge. Raising overhead. Making sure as we're in our lunge here that our knee is over the top of our ankle. Coming back down to our lunge, meeting with the opposite foot in our forward fold, heels underneath our hips. Inhaling, bending in our knees, sweeping our hands overhead. Exhaling through to our chair pose. Keeping those knees pointing straight forward in our chair pose. And then we can inhale, rise back up, and we'll go straight into that sequence on the opposite side. So meeting back in our forward fold, taking a step back with the opposite leg into our lunge, raising overhead, coming back to our lunge, pressing back for our downward facing dog. Inhaling, rising forward into our plank. Exhaling to our crocodile. Inhaling, taking our feet underneath us for our upward facing dog. Taking our toes back underneath, pressing back for our downward facing dog. We'll take a step forward with that same leg into our lunge, raising overhead. Stepping back, forward into our forward fold, heels underneath our hips, bending in our knees, sweeping our hands overhead, exhaling through to our chair pose. Inhaling, rising back overhead, coming back to our mountain pose. All right, nice job everyone. So those are both of our variations of our sun salutations. So go ahead and replay those, get some practice with them. They'll be very helpful in our sessions. Hope you enjoyed.